You don't want to sit? That's okay. But we'll have you step right over here once you get up here. That way, that'll make sense. Want to go right over here? Yeah. Find your footing, okay? It's a little uneven. Little further. Does the ground feel okay under your feet, or you want to find a more flat area? That's okay.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, right.
It's not going to, I know it's very. Your dad does not want to say it. I'm gonna have Alice sit there and I'll sit here.
Yeah.
I'll sit next to them.
Face each other, guys, and do a lot easier.
Yeah.
She got up.
Thank you.
Over there. Let. You want to see this? I'm sorry. They're gonna put down.
This is 2 years standing.
You want to stand here? You want to go next to the round? Yes. Okay. Wow.
All right. Well, we're getting positioned. I'd like to invite folks to come in a little bit. I know the wind keeps picking up and I'm be able to hear everyone.
That'll be all right.
Almost there.
Yeah, I'll be okay then.
Almost there. There you go.
I'll go flat under your feet. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
We gathered together this morning for the passing of Carole Chimkin to remember her, to tell of her life, and to give her praise. She was a person whom friends and family were particularly important. Over and over, she showed up for people in important times in their lives, and that's being reciprocated today. The Hebrew word for funeral is levaya, which means accompaniment. And that's what we've come together to do, to be with Carole, to remember her, and to accompany her to her final resting place. We're gathering in memory to mark her passing and for friends and family to support one another in her loss. We'll begin with some psalms and readings from our tradition, framing her life, reflecting on who she was. And after talking to her family about who she was, the kind of parent and partner she was, and friend, I want to start with a well-known reading one that's often sung Friday nights from Jewish husbands to their wives, a woman of valor, Isha Chayil. And like this. Isha Chayil means Barachot meaning Nifra. What a present find is a woman of valor, her worth is far beyond rubies. Her husband puts his confidence in her and lacks no good thing. She is good to him, never bad, all the days of life. She opens her hand to the needy and extends her hand to the poor. She's clothed with strength and splendor. She looks to the future cheerfully and opens her mouth with wisdom. Her tongue is guided by kindness. She oversees the activities of her household and never eats the bread of idleness. Children come forward and bless her. Her husband praises her and says, many women have done superbly, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty vain. But a God-revering woman is much to be praised. Extol her for the fruit of her hand. Wherever people gather, her deeds speak her praise. Continue with a reading from the book of Ben Sirach, which is written just after the Hebrew Bible was canonized, so first or second century, by someone who reflected on life and death and illness and how to think about the end of a long life. We are all destined to die. We share with all who ever lived, with all who ever will be. Cry for the dead. Do not hide your grief. Do not restrain your mourning, but remember that continuing sorrow is worse than death. When the dead are at rest, let their memory be a source of peace, and be consoled when the soul departs. Death is better than a life of pain, and eternal rest is better than constant sickness. Let us not seek to understand what is too difficult for us, nor search for what is hidden, nor be preoccupied with what is beyond, for we have been shown more than we can comprehend. As a drop of water in the sea, as a grain of sand on the shore, are our few days in eternity. The good things in life last for a short time, but a good reputation, a good name endures forever. And for more than a decade, Carole's family has rallied around her, supporting care for her in her illness. And there are many pressures involved in living, and sometimes there are even greater pressures as the life comes to an end. And the responsibility of caregiving is all consuming and exhausting.
Well, could you? Probably not.
Psalms talks about maybe from even a sacred duty. Psalm 61, we read, from the end of the earth I call to you when my heart is faint, lead me to a rock that is high above me. I said, oh, that I had the wings of a dove, I would fly away and find rest. Lo, I would flee far off, I would lodge in the wilderness. I would soon find a refuge from the sweeping wind and the tempest. Sweeping wind has blown its last, the tempest is no more, now is a time for refuge and solace, for lodging in the wilderness. For those of us blessed to have seen the care that one human being can show another, we know that wilderness doesn't last forever. Pain and sorrow may challenge our faith, but the courage to persevere in the face of that pain is a real miracle. The compassion we see in the human heart and the will to act on it is reason to believe and to trust. So we'll continue as the casket is lowered.
You're a whore. You know that, right?
Shalom. Carole, go into God in peace. Shiva malo tesainai el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai ose shamayim ba'aretz hayiten lamot raglecha al yedu shomrecha hine lo yanum alo yishan shomei Yisrael Adonai Shomrecha, Adonai Tzilcha, Al Yad Yeminecha, Yomam HaShemesh Lo Yekeka, B'Yareach B'Layla, Adonai Yishmorcha Mikora, Yishmor et Nafshecha, Adonai Yishmor Tzidcha Uvoecha, Me'ata ve'ad olam. מעתה ועד עולם. A song for ascents. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. Adonai will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. The guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Adonai is your protection, a guardian at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. And I will guard you from all harm and guard your life. And I guard your going and coming, now and forever.
Atmosphere.
But this time I'd like to invite Carol's son-in-law, Brett, who'd like to share some words.
Mob. MOM. Three simple letters that, when strung together in a specific way, mean something extra. Carole was affectionately known as Mom to almost everyone she met. Carole's sister, Robin, nearly 8 years her junior, often looked up to Carole as her surrogate mother figure during those tumultuous teenage years. As a wife to her husband, Stuart, Carole would often encourage him to eat vegetables and adopt more healthy eating habits. But still, you must know that it was all spoken out of love. And as a mother to two, it was only natural that she extended her mothering role to include others as well. For example, as a preschool teacher, Carole touched the hearts and minds of so many people throughout her life. Hundreds, if not thousands, of children's lives were enriched by Carole's caring and supportive nature. And if that weren't impressive enough, Carole was always seen crocheting or knitting a sweater outfit for some lucky child. Although that lucky child was usually my daughter, Cindy. No, but seriously, she must have crocheted or knitted hundreds of sweaters, vests, blankets, hats, gloves, mittens. And she was extremely talented, owning a craft that has fallen out of favor in more modern times.
Oh, yeah.
Even while taking up residency in the nursing home, she took others under her wing, as if they were her own. Brad, a cherished friend, enjoyed Carole's companionship as he struggled to cope with his medical condition. Carole lent a guiding hand even when no one else seemed to care. Anyone who knew Carole knew also that she always had a story to tell. She was never at a loss for words. Even during these last 6 months, while her cognitive skills were in decline, she continued to regale us with stories of bygone times, talking about places she'd been and things she'd seen. Sometimes she made us laugh. And sometimes she made us cry. But through it all, there were always words that needed to be said. Carole was a seasoned world traveler, having visited several countries, including Israel, England, Belgium, Scandinavia. However, she still found joy in some of the more simpler things in life, like blowing bubbles across the table at my mom and with my mom and my aunt at Cindy's wedding. It's memories like these that keep our loved ones close to our hearts. It's memories like these that make them special. Just like mom.
You, Brad. So I knew Carole a little just in the last few years, but I've heard so many stories about her life and what she was like at earlier times in her life. I'm going to share a little bit of that now. Carole was born in September 1944 to Irving and Celia Weissman and grew up in the Bronx. Her father worked for his grandfather's newsstand for a bit and spent his career in the post office, and her mother was a homemaker. He had an older brother, Jack, of blessed memory, and Robin, younger sister. And she looked on her early life, her family life growing up, with a lot of fondness and joy. She talked about all her friends, about playing outside, about her street Fox Street being closed off so that people could play in the street. Her about a restaurant, and Uncle Max used to call her little meatball. His little meatball. She just remembered a very happy home life. Perhaps it's that she wanted to perpetuate. She graduated from high school in 1962, and not long after, she met Stu at a dance in the city. In late 63, they started dating seriously in 64 and were married 2 years later. And so you told me that she knew that you'd be married after that first date. It took you a little bit longer, but not long. And she was right. That marriage lasted almost 60 years. Next month it will have been 60 years. You lived in Yonkers and then Co-op City, and you were both deeply involved in the Jewish community there. She was a leader. She was the first woman to carry a Torah scroll at the Co-op City Jewish Center. She was the first vice president at the time, and Stu, you were second vice president. Stu, you worked nights as a manager of the post office and had to sleep during the day. So Carole was very much, you said, raise the kids, largely on her own, at least during waking hours. And she was a valiant person, a valiant and a loving mother. And her love of children, as Brett said, was limited to her own family. It drove her to the nursery school classroom as a volunteer and later as a teacher. And Linda, you pointed out that you really have to love kids to be a nursery school teacher. It's a salad to bring it there. And she did. And you have to have someone to support you while you play out that passion. And Stu, that was you. That her work was not financially rewarding, but it was deeply spiritually and emotionally rewarding. And you supported her through that as she supported you and your family in so many ways. So Stu and Carole retired to the Hudson Valley after 30 years in the Bronx. After Linda pointed out that if you moved up here, you cost of living would be low enough you could actually retire. And you did. And both before and after retirement, you traveled. Brett talked about the trips to Israel, to Europe, cruises. Linda, you talked about trips to Disney and the family vacations over and over to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And you remember the 8 people in a station wagon going up and down the country hills like a roller coaster. So she liked to knit, to crochet. She did puzzles of all kinds, from jigsaw to Sudoku. She wasn't much of a TV person except for Jeopardy. Appropriately enough for someone who loved puzzles. She would read constantly. She'd read something. So you told me something like four books a week for a lot of her life. In the elevator, walking down the street. Any time that could spare 30 seconds, you'd have a book open. And even in recent years, as her cognitive issues made it harder for her to read new material, she'd reread old favorites. revisiting old familiar stories. What really defined her more than any of her hobbies or pastimes was her relationships. She was so close to family, family by birth, by marriage, by love. Brad, you told me how it was so clear how much Carole regarded you as a son. And she really trusted you even in the dark fog of her illness. You and Liv told me yesterday that even there's some point where she asked for you, even though she couldn't remember your name, that whoever that guy is you're married to, I want him. Because she trusted you very deeply at that core level the illness couldn't touch. Stu, Carole was your rock through all of your health issues for the years. And so it was so disorienting when more than 10 years ago she was diagnosed with vascular dementia. It's such a disease that chips away what seemed like core characteristics of a person. Lost inhibitions, she was confused and angry as she began to lose aspects of herself, not understanding always the extent of her impairment or really why she needed the kind of care that she needed. And you all rallied to keep her at home for as long as you could, but 2.5 years later, it was no longer possible. Been nursing care ever since. And even then, in the midst of really trying chapter in life, she still was able to make new friends, dear friends. Some of whom may be joining us today by Zoom. I think there's going to be an attempt to do that. But if not, this is also being recorded, so maybe we can get them a copy of it afterwards. This last chapter of her life was truly difficult, and her loved ones have been grieving the loss of parts of her for some time. But the love she gave so freely and completely was returned to her by those close to her in ways she couldn't even always understand at the time, and in ways she did know, despite everything. And her life ended this past week surrounded by love, surrounded by loved ones who were there for her, as she had been there for them so many times.
Yeah, Legos, but they're close.
So in our Jewish calendar, there is a 7-week period between Passover and Shavuot, leaving Egypt and receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai. Each week is associated with a particular quality of character, of God, of humanity. We're ending the week of Tiferet, about finding the balance between compassion and responsibility, between boundless love and necessary restraint. And that's what these last dozen years have been like, trying to balance those two values in caring for Carole, giving her the love she needed, even when the structures were confining for her, because it's what was necessary. It's out of love, and he didn't always know it. And today is the first day of a new week in that 7-week period. And the theme of this week is Netzach, which translates as fortitude or endurance or resolve. That's what the task of this first week of Shiva, and it's also one that you've been living out for so many years. Endurance, resolve, sticking to it. Perhaps the fortitude that the lesson of fortitude you learned may feel like you have to remain in that place of fortitude forever. But maybe the new kind of fortitude you need to find. It's also about hanging on and more about letting go and stepping into life without Carole. Finding new ways to adjust and endure together, holding one another up. This week's Torah portion is from Leviticus. It's double Acharimot and Kedoshim.
What?
Acharimot means after the death.
I don't think that
And it's setting the stage after the death of Aaron's 2 sons.
Nightmare.
What?
It doesn't tell us a lot about its continuing process of grief, but it's significant. The landmark, that's a landmark of that time. That's how that period in our history is recalled, is after this loss. And the second part is Kedoshim, holiness, dedicating oneself to right
I
living.
don't think my mother would care.
After death, we're called to respond by rededicating ourselves to living a holy life, not necessarily one of just a piety, but of living out her example, care,
I talked to my mother.
concern, and generosity.
Probably watching this. So.
Speaking what we do good and what we do well, a tribute to her. Carole Chimkin Kaisara by Yitzhak left the world yesterday morning in the company of her loving family. Thursday, April 23rd, the 6th of the Hebrew month of Iyar. Her memory will be a blessing. We're going to continue with Psalm 23. Then we'll move forward with the burial. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echzer, בינות אשר ביציני, עמי מנוחות ינהלני. אף שיהיה שואב, אף שיהיה שואב, ינחני במעגלי צדק, למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגץ המוות, לא יררם, כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך, שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמונים. תערוך לפני שולחן, תערוך לפני שולחן, תערוך לפני שולחן, נגד צורריי. דשנת בשמן ראשי, דשנת בשמן ראשי, דשנת בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. טוב החסד, ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני, ושבתי בבית אדוני, לאורך ימים. And in the English, if you know this version, please feel free to join in. A Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. So in our tradition, the last act of respect, of honor, of caregiving we can do for someone is to lay them to rest. So we're going to, for all those people willing, we're now going to do that physically. I invite first close family, anyone else would like to come and place at least 3 shovelfuls of earth on a casket. A couple of pieces of custom. One is if the ground holds together enough to allow it. There's a tradition to do at least the first shovelful of the back of the shovel blade. Sort of, it's awkward. It differentiates us from regular labor that we're doing reluctantly, maybe a little awkwardly. It's not an everyday thing we're doing. And there's a tradition, if possible, to put the shovel back into the earth and let the person take it rather than handing it from hand to hand. So I invite family to come forward first, and then everyone is welcome.
I hope my mom got my text. Well, if she's watching it on her phone, she saw it because it came right across. Oh, there's Linda. It's funny because when I was a little kid, I used to think that Linda was my first girlfriend because we used to hang out a lot. She wasn't, but our families did a lot together.
So. Yeah. That's bad. He's
I'll
gonna
never forget Bob at my grandmother's.
Oh, go on. Oh, I'm not going. No. Yeah.
Sure Frank was even there. I haven't heard a word about him.
Harris, I'm still hearing.
There's nothing I can do about it.
Don't even try. You just used the wrong side of the shovel.
Some people do that.
Oh, they do that?
Yeah, because it's supposed to be a grudging shoveling the dirt, but I don't want to be.
Part right.
It's just an idiosyncrasy that's.
Was I
some
stare like
people
that?
use. I don't care about Andy and Pam. If they don't show up on Sunday, I'm gonna be really upset. They're the only ones that I care about showing up.
Yeah.
No one else do I even, we haven't even heard from, I don't know, you might have on Facebook, but from Josh or Ellen or Sam or any of those people. But I made
Anyone
it
else
down
would
there
like to
for
invite to come
Barry's
forward?
funeral. If they don't come, I'm gonna be very upset with them. Unless they have a really fucking good reason for not being here. Stop it.
No, I won't.
You are a whore. Whore.
No.
You're a whore.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting in this chair doesn't mean that I'm here for your convenience and love. Look at him. He stands there like all entitled and yaps at me. Rubs me. You're a whore. I'm gonna do the two things I have to do. I'm not gonna finish going through my mail today. I'm just gonna do the two things I have to do. I have to file a new claim for a new client. And I have to send some settlement papers back to the insurance company on another file. That's all I'm gonna do today. And then I'm gonna start disassembling my office.
Okay, heard from Josh. And Debbie. Kelly. Harry.
Harry? Maybe still alive. I heard about maybe passing. As we're talking about mothers.
It's so true. I've known for her entire life.
Think he's comfortable?
That's a February. These are two.
We're immortal to live but a single year, or even 1,000, it would not seem enough. We therefore praise the judge of truth who takes but who also gives life. We know, God, your discretion is beyond us, that your word is good, but your judgments at times trouble us. When we may brood over harsh realities, Tzaddik Atah, we place our trust in your righteousness and accept our loss, and the love that remains with us forever. Have mercy upon us and strengthen us to maintain our courage at this time of sorrow. God is given, God is taken. Yehi Shem Adonai Yevorach. Praise be God's name. The memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Mamromim, Pamsei Menucha Nekolam, Tachat Kaveh Shechina,
I wouldn't be able to do
Alot Kedoshim Utehorim, Kezohar Akia Mazirim, Et Nishmat Chaya Sarah Bat Yitzchak B'Sisel, Galcha Leolama, Began Eden Tehevenu Chata, Ana Baharachamim, Hastireha Beseter Knafecha Leolamim,
I said it would be-
Utro Bitor Chaim Et Nishmata, Adonai Nachalata, V'Tanuch B'Shalom Al Mishtava, V'Nomar, Amen. El Malei Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence, among the holy and the pure, the soul, Carole, who's gone to her eternal rest. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May your soul be bound up in the bond of life. We should rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Say with Mourner's Kaddish. Yikada, Yikada, Shemei Rabbah, Ve'alma Tidrach, Birutei, Ve'achlit, B'achutei, V'chayechon, Yomechon, V'yei Tefol, Beit Yisrael, V'agalat, B'smat Tariv, V'yimru, Amen. Yishmei Rabbah, Ve'olam, Omei Omai, Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitba'ar, Yitramam, Yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitaleh, Yitalal, Shmei Kudajah, Brifu, Elam, Mikol, Virhata, Vishrata, Tushbefata, Benefata, Damiran, Be'alma, Vimru, Amen. Yehi Shloma Rabba Mishmai, Chaim Aleinu V'Alkol Yisrael, Vimru, Amen. Say Shalom B'Mrahav, Uya Say Shalom, Aleinu V'Alkol Yisrael. Amen. So we've spent this morning fulfilling the mitzvah of accompanying Carole to her final resting place. And now it's time to turn to another mitzvah of comforting mourners. So what I'd like to do is invite everyone by Carole's family to line up facing each other and to make an aisle for them to walk on the either side of this path. And family, I'd like to ask you to come right here. And walk back away from the grave towards life. We're surrounded by compassion, care, of your friends and family and community. Greet them with our traditional greeting from mourners, our tradition. Hamakom, Yinachem, Etchem, B'Tov Shar, Abulei Tzion, Jerusalem, to the source of life and to console you among all the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem.
That's a hell of a walker he's got there. Is that like so he could sit on it?
Maybe.
Anybody there? Except Linda and Stu and Brett.
That concludes our service. Folks are welcome to, that will be gathering at Linda and Brett's home in Hyde Park following this. Shiva will be observed at Stu and Carole's home. They're welcome visitors from noon to 7, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There will be minions on Sunday night and Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, but people are welcome to visit any of those times. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. And